Next item on the agenda is our first public participation. If anybody is wishing to address the council, you can come forward to the podium, you can sign in, give your name and your address, and you can give 5 minutes to address the council. Before we actually start that, we do have a proclamation for Rex Stretch. Rex, come on up. Whereas Rex Stretch, through his tenure as an automotive technician and shop manager for Walmart for 40 years, has provided the community with stellar service and a willingness to help all. And whereas Rex has been an integral part in ensuring the continued success or access to automotive services at Cameron's local Walmart through its relocations and remodels. And whereas Rex has passed on his knowledge by training new technicians, which allowed them to, in turn, help countless others. And whereas Rex provided transportation, mentorship, and a great example of selfless service to his children, especially during the time of their involvement in band, and whereas Rex, during the 19 years that Rex's wife, Sally Stretch, provided child care, Rex was a shaping influence for the next generations. And whereas the City of Cameron does hereby recognize the outstanding 40 years of service to the community by Mr. Rex Stretch and proclaims January 16th through 22nd, 2022 to be Rex Stretch Week in Cameron, Missouri. Now therefore I, Dennis M. Clark, Mayor of the City of Cameron, Missouri, do hereby present this proclamation in recognition of Mr. Rex Stretch and his contributions to the City of Cameron for the past 40 years. And witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Cameron to be affixed at City Hall this day of January 2022. Rex, we will go ahead and proceed to our first public participation. Is there anybody wishing to address the council?
I'm not running out of time here, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass something out, so I start my time when I tell you who I am. You're hard act to follow, Rex. Okay, Bruce Witt, Cameron, Missouri. I'm here to talk to you about a sign up here on the barricade, and I guess we've got a ordinance now to do that. The way this all started back in September, I talked to the Preservation Society that at that time thought they were in charge of this. They told me it's okay to do this, so I did it. Then I put it up and put the sign up on October the 8th, 4 o'clock. I paid the rent fee for a fundraiser for the historical and Preservation Society. On the 12th at 9:46 in the morning, I was informed somebody had complained. Not at a public meeting that I'm aware of. Somebody just made a complaint. They must be the most powerful person in Cameron. Because that week I had the city manager in my office 4 times and Tim Wine on the phone and in my office multiple times trying to resolve this. So Here we are in January, and you can read the letter I got. My sign does not fit your new rule, because you want a 2-foot gap at the top and bottom. I'd hate to throw away this sign. I'm asking for a grandfather. I think this is a grandfather situation. I had permission from the previous people that thought they owned it. I understand how they thought they owned it. I saw them up there picking it up out of the street one day and trying to put it back together. So I think they're stewards of the project, and I had no other way to know that. I don't think anybody knew that. The ordinance was put together after the fact. It was not an ordinance. Pretty hard to comply with an ordinance if one does not exist. So I'm asking to be able to use my sign, put it back where it was, which I thought I was going to be able to do when I took it down in good faith, that this was going to be a 30-day deal to get this thing put back out. And here I am 4 months later, coming to ask you to let me do that. Thank you.
Mr. Witt, thank you. I don't think we can actually comment on it here, but we'll ask the manager to reach out to you. What would work for your schedule and address us?
Anytime would be fine. I'll call Mr. Witt first thing tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Witt.
Thank you. Bruce, my name is Mr. Witt, I've died 15 years. Bruce, congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else wishing to address the council? Okay. Seeing none, that will conclude our first public participation. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any requests to move items from the consent agenda to the regular agenda? Okay, seeing none, the clerk will now read the items on the consent agenda.
Item A, motion to approve the minutes of the January 3rd, 2022 regular session.
Chair, entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda, I have appointments.
You don't have any.
Okay, all right, that is one. Okay, next item on the agenda is the city manager's report, Manager Rasmussen.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I have 3 things. Only one thing I had for Friday in your packet, and that is I would like to announce that Mr. Josh Hall from the electric department has passed all of the requirements to move up from apprentice to journeyman. Josh, are you here tonight in the audience? Okay, I asked him to stand up. If he would, we have an opportunity to congratulate him. But he's passed all the requirements to move from apprentice to journeyman. Webster defines a journeyman as an experienced and reliable worker, which Josh certainly is, and we want to congratulate him on that achievement. The second thing is, I am sorry to report that Mr. Drew Bondrager had submitted his resignation to us to take a position in the private sector, where I'm sure he will go out and make a lot of money, and I hope he will keep us fondly in memory and come back and help us whenever he can. But his last day will be Friday, and I will host a farewell for him here in the council chambers, and I would invite the park board, the members of the city council, the members of staff, and any members of the public who are friends and acquaintances of Drew Bondrager to please come and take that opportunity to say farewell and wish him well.
What time is that?
And that will be from 12 to 1. Lunch, we'll have snacks and things, so you need not miss lunch. Come and join us there at that time.
Sounds fair.
And then the last thing I wanted to say was we did get all of the CDBG-CV grant applications out this last week. Zach is not here with us tonight. He's ill, but he got all of those out before he took ill with a great deal of help from MOCAN, from the city staff, and from Drew. We managed to get them out. They were very lengthy, and we kept having new requirements we didn't find out about. MOCAN helped us a lot on those requirements. One last thing, though, that we found out, we needed a resolution from the city council. We submitted it with the minutes from the council meeting, which stated that it was the council's consensus that we should apply for those grants. We did not know at that time, however, that it actually required a resolution. We thought that was as good as a resolution. We submitted it that way, but just in case they come back and ask us for a resolution, later in the meeting today, we'll ask for a resolution, so it does say, now therefore be it resolved. And that way, if they ask for it, we can submit that to them.
Great. Are there questions or comments to the manager?
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. That will conclude the manager's report. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business, and we have service line discussion and hopefully a decision.
Okay, well, I would like to start that out. We've been talking about this probably for a year. There are 4 or 5 different solutions that we've had briefings every council meeting. I think every council member has a different opinion. We would like to bring back at the next council meeting whatever action that you would like to take. If it requires resolutions or ordinances or changes, we'll do that, but that's based upon your desires. You, of course, have the option to do nothing. We can continue to do the same thing that we have done, I think, since the 1970s. I think it's been 50 years probably. But what happens is we pay for repairs to the mains, but it's the property owner's responsibility to pay from the house to the main for any leaks. And some of these service lines go many hundreds of feet, sometimes into the next block. So your resident can be paying for a leak that actually occurs in a neighbor's yard on the next block. Some cities say that it is the responsibility of the homeowner to pay from the meter to the house, and the city pays from the meter to the main. Many residents think that that's the case, and Zach probably has this conversation every month with somebody, and it's a surprise to them because it can be a lot of money. The council has a number of different options they can do to change that, or we can leave it the way it is. And at that point, I would turn it over for you to start your discussion, and if there's any consensus on the city council, we'll prepare the necessary documents for you.
Do you have the 5 things for us to look at?
I don't have them in writing, and I apologize. I should have brought them into you, but I can talk about them any time, and I can brief them right now if that would work.
Yeah, please.
Okay. The first option, of course, is to leave it the way it is and make no change. The second option is that the city could assume responsibility from the meter to the main. That requires, though, that there be some additional charge, probably to the water bills, so that the city could begin to put a fund for paying for that. I'm sure the reason that it was done the way it was many years ago was the city did not have the money to pay for those. It would be $200,000 or $300,000 a year if you begin to repair all of those. That's the number that Zach would like to see in there, and it would take some money to continue to create a fund for that.
You mean from the main to the meter?
Yes, the city would pay for the main to the meter. And one of those things is we are in the process of trying to reduce the size of those lines and to move the meters closer to the house, so you have your meter pit in your own yard. The third option is one which we talked about many times, and that was the National League of Cities has an insurance program, and the National League of Cities has come to the City Council and presented that. And that is an insurance program, and you can do that in one of 2 ways. One, you have advertise it, and the residents can say we will sign up for it. Or the other way you can do it is you sign everybody up for it, and the resident would say they don't want it. It's kind of an opt-in and opt-out, whichever you would like to do on that. The fourth option is homeowners insurance. We had 2 local insurance brokers come in and tell us how that would work, and that is you could put that on your homeowners insurance, and that's one way of doing it. So any of these options would work. Another way we could do, which we suggested, is kind of a 50-50 program. Maybe what happens is when you have such a leak, the owner pays half and the city pays half, which would kind of be a compromise.
I just wanted to say the 50/50 program, I believe that was suggested by Norma O'Connor, kind of would go along like our sidewalk program. It wasn't what I had budget funds this much available this year, and then you get, you know, whole blocks or whole streets of people to.
Yes, it's more complicated.
Yeah.
We take a little discussion on that. In any case, what it kind of amounts to is, and this would be kind of the National League of Cities number, it's like $7.50 if you paid for the insurance program for service lines, which is water, and maybe $7.50 for sewer lines. What would it be? Somewhere, the cost is maybe $10 or $12 or $14 for every resident. That's kind of what it costs, and the question is, who ends up paying for it and how? There, I think those are the options. There may be a number of variants, but those are the big ones.
Well, maybe we should just go down the line and see what everybody thinks, unless somebody wants to stop.
I'll start.
Okay.
You know, I think right now where we're at with the new water line coming in, personally, I think we could, allow the National League of Cities to do an opt-in. That way, everybody has a choice whether they get into it or not, wanna pay for it. You know, maybe a few years down the road, after we know the final number for the water lines and what the new bills are going to be, maybe kind of redirect and see if there's something feasible we could do. But, you know, right now, there's gonna be big jumps in the utilities, and I don't think it'd be the right time to force another $15 or whatever it is on every person that's gonna be
Especially
going
with
up 40.
inflation going up.
Right. And, you know, I realize we have aging infrastructure in those areas, and there's a definite need. I just don't believe you can do that now, realistic. Because I know a lot of these bills are gonna be $50 higher probably than they were. But they're still covered. If they wanna buy that insurance policy, they can. If they don't, it costs them $7,000, it costs them $7,000. It's just where I'm at. I say we offer that insurance and then go from there. Because if we don't like it, we can tell them we're gonna do something else 5 years from now, however many long.
Actually, I think since we're talking about it and it's been, nothing's done to it for so long, I think it is only, we do need to do something. I really do think. For us to not do anything does not serve our citizens very well or our aging infrastructure. Now, there's a lot of different options. I see those. I kind of agree with you. We've got a lot of rates that are going to be rising and for a lot of different things that are going on. We're redoing our sewer plant, pipelines coming in. But I do think it's a good idea for everybody to realize that they're home. And the renters, you know, the high amount of renters we have, they're gonna have to, you know, be aware, and probably they do, but, you know, if you're renting, it doesn't really gonna affect you, but if you are a homeowner, it will. So I think it's a good time to just kind of get everybody on the same page on this, because what did Zach say? How many do we have a year? About, did he say 40?
About 40.
Yeah, I think that needs to be looked at. I really do think we should figure something out, so that's all I have to say.
Did you favor any one of the kind of options?
We'll just see, I'll see how the rules go. I do, but I'm not gonna say it right now.
Okay, well, I would favor us taking it over and adjusting the rates. And the reasons are several. I think most people would agree that they don't think the current setup is fair, where you can have a leak 100 or 150 feet down the street and then you're stuck paying for it. We also had a situation where we basically shut off the utilities to the little widow. If she's cutting her pills, she's not gonna buy insurance, and we're gonna be right back in the same situation. What do we do when we have a leak? For the people that are saying, I don't care about that, I'm on a tight part of the system, again, yes, you do. because approximately 1 out of every 3 gallons is currently running out of the ground, as I understand it. Now we're gonna have a big jump in water prices. So do you want to go ahead and let that keep happening, or do we want to start plugging the leaks? The insurance company is not, it doesn't care about Cameron, it doesn't care about minimizing the bill, they're profit centers. The only person, or the only entity that cares about it is all of us in the city of Cameron collectively. So, with the bills going up, and decades of deferred maintenance, and 1 out of every 3 gallons running out on the ground, to me, it doesn't make sense to delay it. We'll just go ahead and take our medicine. I don't like raising it, I don't like paying more any more than anybody else does. But I also don't like our water going way up, and then we still have 1 out of every 3 gallons running out on the ground. You have an old system, and it's getting older, which it's very reasonable to conclude your leaks are going to get worse, not better. So rather than waiting and letting the future council have to deal with it when it's 4 out of every 10 gallons or whatever, I'd rather take my medicine now and just go ahead and get a program in place, and we'll pick something arbitrarily, whether it's $10 or whatever, and then we'll just have to adjust it as we go along. But that would be my pick. Councilwoman?
Well, I would be for the city taking it over, but not at the cost of the citizens. I have been on this council, I'm finishing my 3rd year, and I can't tell you how much utilities have gone up in just the 3 years that I've been on this council, and they're about ready to go up again. And I understand exactly what you're saying. And so there's a couple of programs that if they want to opt in and have themselves covered, they can do that. Their own homeowners insurance or the opt-in program. But how many times in a year are we gonna tell them utilities are going up? That's my idea.
I'm gonna give the long answer. Water lines are a utility. The water lines are a utility. If we went back to the way it was before, where everybody was 100% responsible for their own home, we all had wells. It's kind of like the streets. If we don't have a street, or if we want to all pay for our share of the street, then we have to have all, every street would be a toll road. So, the reason why we have utilities is so that we can have a safe drinking water source for everybody in town. And I think that is paramount. I think that if we do not have the city take over, because they have professional engineers, and professional people that can study the water system and to determine if there is a good quality of water, it's going to take the city being in charge of the water lines to assure that. If people are in charge, I'm sure that it got changed, because as when I was growing up, the common wisdom was that you owned the water pipe to the meter and the city owned it from the meter to the main. I'm sure that changed in the 70s when there was some budget problems that should not have been allowed to happen. If people are allowed to hook on to the water main, they can hire their own miscellaneous plumbers or buy Mattel. Sure, we've got ordinances that people can't do that, but everybody knows that people get around that. So yes, the city needs to own these properties, these water lines. Now, how will it be paid for? Because yes, it has to be paid for. Well, if somebody in one yard has a longer line, they need to pay more. I do not see why somebody should be paid, why everybody should pay the same amount. If somebody has 50 feet of water line and somebody has 150 feet of water line. That is my opinion. There has to be a way to figure out. And so, therefore, I think that an insurance policy with the homeowner or with the landowner that is an opt-in is probably going to be cost effective for a lot of people. So I'm not sure how this works, but yes, the city needs to maintain ownership of all the water lines so that they can make sure that there is quality water product and that professional people are working on it. And I wouldn't normally say that, but there are some things that a city government is supposed to do. The water, the streets, the electricity, the sewer, the fire, the police. Anything else is extraneous as far as I'm concerned. But those things, the infrastructure, and then of course the management of that is what is important to me. So.
Becky, did you want to make another comment?
I'm not sure where we're at.
I've got a note from everybody. Do you have a preference? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, well, actually, I don't have a problem with the city taking that on.
It's how we're gonna pay for it.
Yeah, and I don't particularly want to throw it on.
This is,
Right. Why not? They're getting water.
well, when the pipeline is done, we're gonna throw about $25 on.
Right.
Maybe.
It could be more than that, depending on the time.
And we already overbuilt our structure and we didn't plan on how to take care of it before we built it.
And actually, it's probably the reverse. What happens is it's not overbuilt, it's underbuilt. Because when the houses were built and there was the nearest meter was 200 feet away, well, they put a they put the line there. Then we put in new mains and people didn't want to hook up to that because it would cost more money to hook up to it. So the argument in favor of the city doing it helps correct that problem. Because right now, if you do an insurance program, for example, the insurance company will come out and fix the leak right where it occurs. They don't replace the whole line. If the city does it, we will replace that line and move it to the nearest main. So instead of having a 200-foot line, we've got a 30-foot line that's new and will not cause leaks to occur at other times.
Well, that seems pretty wise.
Yes, it does. And it's also different maintenance. I know that I've lived here all 58 years of my life. My father lived here, grandfather lived here, his great-grandfather lived here. And no, there's hardly been any work done on infrastructure. And we've been talking about needing to do this since the 1970s. You know, my father remembered when there was not, my father did not remember not. My father grew up with electricity. But he remembers not having plumbing. Plumbing came along a lot later date for a lot of people. But it's important that we have that, because if you don't have your infrastructure, pretty soon everything crumbles. It's just important that the city be the one that maintains that integrity.
What, go ahead. What does that say it would cost the city?
Well, $200,000, $300,000 or $400,000 maybe a year. But what I'm hearing maybe is that the majority of the council thinks in some way the city should pick this up. So what if we did this? We'll go back and here before the next council meeting, we have 3 weeks, the next meeting on the 7th of February. We'll come back to you with some real numbers then about what we think it will cost, how much we would charge each resident, and what's the minimum we can get by with on a startup, just to see what it looks like, and we'll bring that back to you and see what that looks like to you.
Can that be done neighborhood by neighborhood?
Well, we could look at that. Yeah, that does depend on how you'd like to do that, because there's some new
The older
neighborhoods that
ones,
are different than older
yeah,
neighborhoods.
so the older neighborhoods would have probably more to do with.
They might,
Yeah.
but since the lots are smaller, it may go out.
Yeah.
Well, and just as another point, many of these lines are galvanized. So just because you have a leak here, let's say you have a 150-foot run, and just because you have a leak here, and then it's patched, it's reasonable to conclude that that line is deteriorating the entire 150 feet. It just happened to break right there at that moment. There may be 10-hole leaks up and down it. It's also reasonable to conclude it's going to get worse.
Right.
Because this is not something that's going to heal up. And so since water prices are going up, to to me, it makes sense, let's figure out some way to start addressing these leaks. And I used the example, if you're buying gas at $3 a gallon and it goes up to $6, and you have a leaking gas tank, and you can't afford to put on a new gas tank, you want to start plugging those leaks as fast as you can. And you want to start off with the biggest leaks. And the person or the entity that knows where those are and has the most incentive to do that is the city of Cameron. Because we're owned by the citizens, so we all want to see our costs ultimately minimized.
Right.
So,
I want to see safe water for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren,
sure.
because they will be living here.
Well, and it works two ways. One, if you're in an older neighborhood and you may have more leaks, there would be a tendency to want to spend more money fixing up those neighborhoods. If you live in a new neighborhood and you don't have leaks, well, still, you're paying $1 out of every $3 you're paying in your water bill for leaks that are occurring in other parts of the city as well.
Okay, I think you have what you need. You're gonna come up with a battle plan, and then we'll see if it.
We'll come back to you and see how it looks at the most cost-effective measure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll conclude the service line discussion. Again, the Northwest electric real estate sale has been postponed. So next, we have a second and final reading on Bill 2022-1.
Bill 2022-1, an ordinance for the city of Cameron, Missouri, authorizing the general election to be held on 5 April 2022, fixing the polling places of said election, and directing the city clerk to cause ballots to be printed and election supplies procured for said election. 3-year term.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass Bill 2022-1 on the second reading by roll call.
Second?
Moved and second. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote.
Becky Curtis.
Yes.
Julie Osmond.
Yes.
Roy Estes.
Yes.
Gina Reed Hitler.
Yes.
Dennis Emmett.
Yes. Bill 2022-1 passes 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda, second and final reading on Bill 2022-2.
Bill 2022-2, an ordinance for the city of Cameron, Missouri, authorizing the general election to be held on 5 April 2022, fixing the polling places of said election, and directing the city clerk to cause ballots to be printed and election supplies procured for said election. 2-year term.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass Bill 2022-2 on second and final reading by roll call.
Second?
Moved and second. Discussion?
I might add that this bill did change from the one that was approved on first reading. Ms. Angela Logan did withdraw from the election.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We'll proceed to vote.
Julie Osmond.
Yes.
Roy Estes.
Yes.
Gina Reed Hitler.
Yes.
Dennis M. Clark.
Yes.
Becky Curtis.
Yes.
Bill 2022-2 passes on second and final reading, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda, second and final reading of Bill 2022-3.
Bill 2022-3, an ordinance of the city of Cameron, Missouri, imposing a use tax for the purpose of maintaining, improving, constructing, and reconstructing infrastructure at the rate equal to the total local sales tax in effect for the privilege of storing, using, or consuming within the city any article of tangible personal property pursuant to the authority granted by and subject to the provisions of sections 144.600 through 144.761 RISMO, providing for the use tax to be repealed, reduced, or raised in the same amount as any city sales tax is repealed, reduced, or raised, and providing for submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city of Cameron for their approval at the general election called and to be held on April 5, 2022.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass Bill 2022-3 on second and final reading by roll call.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Discussion?
I have one thing, Mayor, and that is, in the last couple of weeks, I've received a number of phone calls from residents who do not understand why it's called a use tax, what the use tax is, and why we're saying it that way, and not understanding what it's for. And so, presuming that this passes on the second reading, we will make a considered effort from staff to get that explanation out, and then we will also, if any other public groups want to talk about this, we'll make ourselves available for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions, comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote.
Roy Estes,
Yes.
Gina Reed Hitler,
Yes.
Dennis Engelhardt,
Yes.
Becky Curtis, Julie Osmond.
Yes.
Bill 2022-3 passes on second and final reading, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, the next item is, was postponed from the meeting January the 3rd. Resolution 2022-3.
Resolution 2022-3. A resolution for the city of Cameron, Missouri, approving budget adjustment 1 for the budget year of October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass resolution 2022-3.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Discussion?
I'll,
I have a question.
yes, I've asked Carmen to come up and be able to
Okay.
answer the question for you.
Is there an amount in that resolution of money? I didn't hear the number.
It's not in resolutions, it's in the attached documents.
Oh, okay, okay, got it. And it doesn't have to be in the resolution. And that amount would be $61,000 rather than the $87,000.
For the general fund only, it's $61,000. There's a small adjustment for solid waste and parks, and we're also recognizing the full value of our transportation tax expectations for the rest of the fiscal year.
Thought I saw that in there.
Are there any questions or let's see, do you want to go ahead?
That's basically all I have. We did the adjustments as requested. We will, now that we are into the 4th month of our fiscal year, we will be having another adjustment probably in the month of March. So we'll be having a finance committee meeting in the next few weeks to review that, when we kind of look at where we're at now and what the plans are for the rest of the future, you know, between the crystal ball and what's actually happening here in the city of Cameron.
Mayor, I have one other comment to make on this. In the council memo, under revenue adjustments included, it says, and this is talking about $30,000 for curbside recycling. It says, this recognizes the need to increase solid waste fees by an estimated $1 per month per household for 10 months. That would account for the $30,000. Staff will bring back such a resolution in the coming months. Well, this council has several choices on that. One is we could just take that $30,000 out of the general fund and we would just eat it. The second thing is we could increase the fees by $1 per month for 10 months or maybe for a year to make up for this $30,000. The problem here is that $30,000 is what we had to pay REW for doing curbside recycling because we did not have work release. We got work release back here about 2 weeks ago and they started picking us up, so we thought we were okay until Friday. We got notified by the warden that because of the increase in COVID, they had withdrawn our work release for the foreseeable future. So today we are back out doing what we were doing before. So now we have the added question about what we want to do with this for the future. And there are several options. One, we could discontinue curbside recycling. Two, we could continue to take this out of the general fund reserve, or we could put that $1 increase and continue it on for the foreseeable future until we build up some money in the reserve to pay for this. And we don't know what the status of work release would be. They're out for 2 years before. So we are not bringing a resolution back to you soon until we find out what you'd like to do. But you give us an indication what you might like to do with this, we'll bring that back to you next meeting.
Are you telling me that $1 per household will actually, this $30,000 is just for this last budget?
The $30,000 just gets the solid waste fund to a positive operating position, a solid cash position to go on. What we paid, our private vendor for collections during the whole time period was larger.
Okay, so this basically, we don't really know the exact time frame, but it is,
This 30,000 would make us operable and equitable in the solid waste fund.
for this budget.
Now-
For this budget, for now.
For now.
You see, and that was, when we planned the budget, it was always, well, we expect to get the work release back soon. And our communication with Department of Corrections was, well, you'll probably get it soon. And then it just took longer than what we expected, and now it's already gone.
So you're surprised
Yeah.
at us. I am surprised.
Well, we get the surprise too, because we expected to
I know.
receive the crew members, and
Can we just not make a budget adjustment for this $30,000 and do the dollar for 10 months like we talked about and monitor it and see how it goes? Why do we need to make a decision right now when we haven't even figured out whether this is gonna work?
this 30,000 is just recognizing we have an issue and that we want to correct it one way or another.
Okay,
We're not asking for a solution at this point in time, that'd be a discussion for another meeting.
but we're talking about changing what we've already talked about.
Well, what this adjustment would do is it would put the $30,000 back into the solid waste fund so that that waste fund is now positive. Right now it's operating at a deficit.
I understand that, but you're wanting to change the time limit on it that we've already talked about. All I'm asking is, do it for 10 months and see how it comes out.
Sure, that's a perfectly good way to do it. Those are the options the council has.
But adding that dollar needs to still be a separate action. It's not gonna be, this is just making budget adjustment.
Right,
We're
this
not
is
doing,
just-
this is not changing the fee.
Okay.
That would take a resolution next
That's
council.
more than that.
Okay.
And you will let us know now in the future, when next time we talk about this issue with curbside, we will have some sort of an amount of what is gonna be needed since we don't.
Well,
have
we know this 30,000 is needed now,
Right.
but, you know, we have the other information, and if you wanted to recover all the way back from March of 2020, it would be double that amount,
Okay.
if not
You mean it
triple.
would be $2?
No, she's talking about from 30 to 60, right?
Right, I'm talking 30 to 60 to
So it's $30,000
75. You know,
a month.
like you
That's
said,
a
well,
year.
Right, but if it's $1
for
if it's
$30,000,
$30,000 for 10 months, it's gonna be $2 to get $60,000 for 10 months.
How many households use it?
we asked Mr. Bontrager that this morning, and he said
Well,
approximately.
before we cut, he's here, I'm asking
You
you
want-
this
okay.
updated number. Okay, can you tell us, we have 2,300 customers, how many actually use the curbside recycling?
Say around about 20%.
400 or 500, 20%?
Sure.
But there is something else to remember, the rates are gonna be based on tonnage. So if we just say, okay, we're done with recycling, then it would be reasonable to expect tonnage to go up and
Is
eventually.
it for recycling? Because this is just a service of picking it up.
There's still if you suspended the curbside collection, we still have a drop-off center located.
If people will take it out there, that's.
Correct,
I
correct.
mean, that's, so anyway. it's
Curbside
something-
collection.
I guess my question would have to be is, how much would it be to just charge the people that use it? And what's the dollar amount?
$1.
You know know,
Well, it would be
so it's $2 for everybody in the city,
in $1 for every dollar,
Whether
for 20,
you
basically,
use it or not.
okay, he said 500, approximately 500 users. And we wanna make up $30,000.
But that's a pretty big expense, that maybe we should figure out something.
Yeah, you're right, people who are not using it are helping to subsidize the people who do use it. If only you picked up from the people that used it, instead of being $1 a month, it would be $5 a month, because 20% use. You could do that.
Until we get it back to where it's not costing us.
There's also the,
$5.
public affairs issue that are we encouraging recycling by having it out there? If we don't have it all, then we can discourage it, in effect discourage recycling.
I think we ought to just vote on the budget, and then have this discussion at another time.
We can. Would you like us to bring back such a resolution next time, or you just want to have a discussion on it next time?
Well, I don't know that we need to have a discussion on it next time, but I just think we need to put on the budget adjustment.
Sure.
That would be taking the $30,000 out of the reserves. Yes, we have quite a bit of reserves.
This budget adjustment is just recognizing the need to create $30,000 in solid waste funds. So at a future meeting, we will discuss how we want to collect or create, resolve this issue of a need in the solid waste fund.
You don't know where it comes from.
Well, I mean, you said that the dollar, increase of $1 for the next 10 months was another resolution, so sorry. Let's just vote, I just think, are we gonna adjust the budget for this $30,000? That's what I'm asking. If we are, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, this does not adjust the fees, though, it just changes the budget.
I know that.
Maybe what we do then, we're going to have a finance committee meeting soon, we'll put this on the agenda for the finance committee to discuss.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. All right, all those in favor of passing resolution 2022-3, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. That concludes unfinished business. Next item on the agenda is new business. First item is resolution 2022-6.
Resolution 2022-6, a resolution authorizing the City of Cameron, Missouri Police Department to apply for a 100% non-matching grant from the Missouri Department of Transportation to participate in Missouri's Highway Safety Program for 2023.
Thank you, Chair. I entertain a motion to pass resolution 2022-6.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, Chief?
Mayor, Council, this is again, our funding that we're gonna ask for again to go for the, grant. We've done this for the past several years, again, it's a no match, 100% from MoDOT. This allows us to have, extra police officer on about 4 times a month. We'll go out and do, traffic enforcement on 36 highway and 80 state highways.
Questions or comments for the Chief?
I actually do have one. And I love our police department. You do a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
Compared to what we hear in the news, we're very fortunate. I was looking at the MoDOT Highway Safety Program. I was looking at their website and seeing some of the things that they support. I just wondered, how much that are they stressing that, are they demanding that you go out and find people that are causing problems, or are you just being allowed to get there?
Yeah, this is for that extra officer, and it's during the peak time, so we send all of our information, and they'll send us back saying these are the dates of your peak accident times. So they want us to be out there on the highways and everything. We are out there looking for speeding, careless driving, and then the officers are doing car stops on that. They have to keep a record on everything. Whether they give a warning or they give a citation, a lot of times they give a warning on it, but it's mainly visible. And one of the big spots that we really, I asked for the officers to be out there is at 36 and Ensign. That's one of the spots that if we do have an accident there, even though that's not an intersection on 36 highway due to stats, but when we do have an accident out there, Mike O'Donnell and the fire department are coming and everybody because it's such a hard intersection to work an accident in. So that's one of our key points that we want to, if nothing else, just sitting there in the median just to be seen to slow down. Our worst intersection by MoDOT standards is there at Bob F. Griffin. That's where we have a lot of the most accidents. But those accidents are usually, we've had, unfortunately, got a fatality accident there a couple of years ago. But a lot of it is non-injury accidents right in there, but we have more of a volume there. But at Ensign, it's more of a side impact at speeds of 55 miles an hour. So that's one of the key spots we're doing there. And we look at it all different ways. For enforcement, but it gives us an officer out there to not be answering calls if he has a domestic thing. We just concentrate on being seen. And it's usually 4 shifts a month is what we try to fill. Until that money, last year we got $12,000. This gives the officer time and a half to come in on their off-duty time. They're an extra car out there. They're just patrolling there on those areas.
So it's not setting up stops or, you're just having a presence.
Presence and traffic enforcement. They are asking us to get out there, and if we see violations, to stop them.
I guess I mean, like, stop where they stop everybody, they're not going out there to stop everybody and look for problems, not like a check.
Oh, no, it's just to be seen and then to do traffic enforcement. So yeah, we are doing quite a few car stops on those.
Okay, thank you very much.
You betcha.
It's nice to know the difference.
And I believe this is a non-matching grant, so it's all, we don't put anything with it. So thank you for applying for it, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments before we proceed? Okay. All those in favor of passing resolution 2022-6, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda, resolution 2022-7.
Resolution 2022-7, a resolution of the City of Cameron, Missouri, rescinding Resolution 2022-4 and replacing it with a new resolution stating intent to seek funding through the Community Development Block Grant Program and authorizing the mayor to pursue activities in an attempt to secure funding, Harris Street project.
Thank you, Chair. We entertain a motion to pass resolution 2022-7.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. Discussion?
Yes, Mayor, this is one that I had talked about. We wanted to thank MoCan. I think Mark is here, but we wanted to thank them for letting us be aware of this here at the last minute today. And this does not change the amount of money that we get or the amount of money we pay. It just changes the amount of money that we request in the grant. It's a technical issue, but it makes the requirements for the grant correct. And if you'd like to know the details of it, Drew knows that better than I do, and he can answer the questions. But I did want to emphasize it doesn't change the money that we spend or the money that we get for the Harris Street project.
You're gonna be on speed dial, right?
Steve's got it.
Any?
Drew, would you like to make some comments on that then?
Yeah, it's just really a technicality. One of the grant requirements, we cannot include the engineering costs, so we had to reduce the engineering costs. Again, the total project's still the same. The total amount of grant requests, we're still going after the $500,000. So, like the city manager said, there's nothing that changes, just so we can fit the requirements in a resolution of the exact wording for the grant application.
Would make us more likely to get the grant. We cross the T's and dot the I's.
Correct.
It's housekeeping, okay? All right, is there any other questions? Seeing none, let's proceed to vote. All those in favor of resolution 2022-7, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda, resolution 2022-8.
Resolution program, and authorizing the mayor to pursue activities and attempt to secure funding, community central project.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to pass resolution 2022-8.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
Thank you very much, Mayor. This is what I mentioned in the city manager's report. We'll have these two resolutions then, which will be essentially the same as the council's agreement to submit to these funds later, but now we have these resolutions which we can forward to them. In talking with MOCAN today, I asked when we might find out. They said it's been about 2 months when we find out about these, and that will be important, particularly because we're ready to move forward with some work on Griffin Road, and we need to know whether or not we've got this grant, whether or not that plays into it. So we'll hold that in abeyance here for about 2 months until we find out an answer from them, and then we can proceed with those projects.
Thank you. And thank you to you and the staff, because they've been doing a lot of scrambling to optimize our chances of collecting these grants, so thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of passing resolution 2022-8, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Next item on the agenda, resolution 2022-9.
Resolution 2022-9. A resolution of the City of Cameron stating intent to seek funding through the Community Development Block Grant COVID program and authorizing the mayor to pursue activities in an attempt to secure funding. Griffin Road project.
Thank you. Chair, entertain a motion to pass resolution 2022-9.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? We'll go ahead and proceed. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed to vote.
All in favor?
Oh, I hadn't made the, okay, I haven't. Okay, all those in favor of passing resolution 2022-9, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Catching up. Okay, that brings us to our second public participation. If there's anybody wishing to address the council, please come to the podium. Give us your name and your address, and you'll be given 5 minutes to address the council.
Haven't been here in a while. Just a quite a time. First, Rex has been a great amenity to this community. I don't know what he thinks of himself. Him and his wife took care of our kid, got him up, and they've both been a great asset to this town. I'm glad you guys did what you did. The next thing is on that water meter or on your water lines or whatever you're talking about. I think that, I got in trouble on my line because I was told 20 years later that the city should have taken care of it. They made me pay for a line that was a block and a half down to Fifth Street. The only thing I can understand is and like I said, I was told this by a person that worked for the city that I shouldn't have paid for it. I think that if you have to bring water a half a block or 2 blocks to a city hall or to a customer hall or customer house, it should be the city's problem. Endless. Because the city has to provide utility services to everyone. Now, I understand that you put the meter in the hall, in the alleyway, or in the, God damn, I can't, sorry. I have a hard time saying. If you put the meter in the part between the city sidewalk and the street, I understand that. But everything in it should be should be the community's problem. I mean, that's the only way I can ever see it. Not anything about what I understood not too long ago, that the city's gonna put the tap in and you had to run everything. Well, that's plumb, that's not even right by what the city has to do for the community. Now, I understand on the sewer line, there's no meter on a sewer line. And I can understand where you have to be there to put the tap in, you have to run everything. I understand that, but not on a water line. The water line should be brought to the sidewalk of the house, and then they play everything in. If you find that somebody has a leak, and they have.
I got a notice from the Missouri Ethics Commission today, just reminding everybody that the 2022 annual filers, which is everybody here, those have to be done by May 2nd. You've already done yours. You have 30 days, but everybody else has to on May 2nd. It's a new year, new filers. Every year. So we have till May. I think they've actually sent you something, I don't know if you received it yet, but I believe they sent something out, but I will definitely send you the link when it starts getting close and if there's anybody that has it.
Was there anything else?
I just want to say it's a 5-Monday month, so it's 3 weeks more next week.
Nothing further, thank you.
Chief?
A week from tomorrow, on the 26th, the Cameron Police Department's going to be hosting, we partnered up with the school, they're going to let us use the Goodrich Auditorium, but we're going to have a kind of a town hall meeting at 7 o'clock that evening. Anyone wants to come to it, not only in Cameron, but local areas too. We're going to talk about the fentanyl problem that we're seeing, not only nationally, but also starting here locally and stuff. This idea was kind of brought to us, so we're kind of putting it together, but we're going to bring in task force officers with drug units to talk about what they're seeing. Also, we've asked Nathan Jones with the ambulance district to come in and talk about fentanyl and what happens if a loved one is possibly